need to tell you how bad things are. You don't have to turn on the news to see it. You feel it when you go to the grocery store. You feel it when you fill up your car with gas. You feel it with your mortgage payment, with your insurance payment. Everything that we have to have, all of it's gone up. And I would love to say to you, Biden did that to us. And he sent us down this roller coaster of socialism that's dangerous, that has to stop. But I've always spoken in hard truths, and I'm going to do that with you tonight. Our Republicans did that to us too. You go back and look at that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that they passed with no accountability. It expanded welfare that has now given us 100 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our country, through 7,000 of them last December. Want to know how they spent your money? $30 million on an honors college in Vermont, $10 million to tear down a hotel in Alaska, $7.5 million on a courthouse in Colorado, and the list goes on. In the 2024 appropriations budget, Republicans put in $7.4 billion worth of pet projects and earmarks. Democrats put in $2.8 billion. So now you tell me who the big spenders are. All while 1 in 6 American families can't pay their utility bill. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of American families can't afford diapers. Homelessness is up 12%. We have over 653,000 Americans that are homeless today. Social Security will go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare will go bankrupt in 8. Then you look at our education system. And what are they doing? Nothing. They're peacocking on TV, but they're not getting anything done. They now just went home for the holidays without securing our border. Don't you think it's finally time we had term limits in Washington, D.C.? I think we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. Listen, I'm not being disrespectful when I say that. We all know people who are over 75 that can run circles around us. Look at Senator Grassley. And then there's Joe Biden. I don't care if you do these tests for people over the age of 50. The whole point is, these are people making decisions on our national security. These are people making decisions on the future of our economy. We need to know they're at the top of their game. Right now, Congress is the most privileged nursing home in the country. That's not okay. No more whining. No more complaining. Now we get to work. How do we fix it? Start with the economy. We start by clawing back the $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are still out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud. 1 out of every $7 was spent fraudulently. If 8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing. Cut up the credit cards. You have to balance the budget every day. I had to balance the budget as governor. Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance the budget? Do you know that's the one job Congress has, is to pay for government? Do you know they've only produced a budget on time 4 times in 40 years? 4 times in 40 years. When I get in there, we'll say, if you don't give us a budget on time, you don't get paid. It's that simple. Talk about national security. The world is on fire. Literally. We've got a war in Europe. We've got a war in the Middle East. North Korea just tested an intercontinental ballistic missile that's capable of reaching the U.S. China's on the march. But make no mistake, none of that would have happened had we not had that debacle in Afghanistan. The idea that my husband and his military brothers and sisters who served there had to watch us leave Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that told our friends. More importantly, think about what that showed our enemies. And now look at what Congress is telling you. Congress is saying, do we support Ukraine or do we support Israel? Do we support Israel or do we secure the border? Don't let them lie to you like that. It's wrong. That is a false premise and they're not telling you the truth. Let's start one by one. Let's take Ukraine. You should know, Ukraine was one of our best friends when I was at the United Nations. They voted with America on almost everything. They supported almost all of our initiatives, whether I asked them to or not. Here you have this pro-American, freedom-loving country that was invaded by a thug. 500,000 people have died because of Putin. I will be the first one to say, I don't think you should ever give cash to any country because you can't follow it. I don't think we need to put troops on the ground. And the Ukrainians don't want troops on the ground. They want to fight this themselves. But we need to give them the equipment and ammunition to win. Now, for any of you that ask the question, why should we care about Ukraine? That's a legitimate question to ask. The reason we should care about Ukraine, I saw this every day at the United Nations. Terrorists, dictators, and thugs always tell you what they're going to do. They're amazingly transparent. Hamas said they were going to try and get into Israel. They did. China said they were going to take Hong Kong. We watched it. Russia said that they were going to invade Ukraine. It happened. China says Taiwan is next. We better believe them. Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Poland and the Baltics, those are NATO countries. If that happens, America is at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. I know my opponents call me a warmonger. That's not being a war. My husband's in the military. The last thing I want him to do is fight the war. Let's prevent it. And Putin's hit rock bottom. We know that. Russia has lost 87% of the troops that started this war. They've raised the draft age in Russia to 65. They're getting drones from Iran and missiles from North Korea. Putin knows he's in trouble. If we just supported Ukraine, that's only 3.5% of our defense budget. That's it. The Europeans are putting in more than that, and they should. It's their neighborhood. Now let's go to Israel. It's because 5 years ago, I gave a speech to the entire world at the UN. And I spoke about the fact that we knew there were maps. These maps were held by Hamas. And it showed that if they could break the barrier, it was how they were going to kill as many Jews as fast as they could. And it happened. God help us if we don't get this right. So anybody that asks, why should we care about Israel? Israel's a bright spot in a tough neighborhood. They have always been the tip of the spear when it comes to defeating terrorism. It has never been that Israel needs America. It has always been that America needs Israel. And remember, on October 7th, when Hamas came in and beheaded those people and burned those babies alive and took those girls from the concert and raped them and dragged their naked bodies through the streets of Gaza, what did they say? Death to Israel, death to America. That's why you care about Israel. My opponents say, this is Israel's issue. It's not America's issue. This should be personal for us. They butchered 33 Americans on that day. We have American hostages. Remember when I told you Putin hit rock bottom? Hamas invaded Israel and did all that brutality on October 7th. October 7th is Putin's birthday. Who's the happiest person in the world right now? Putin. Why? Because the US and the West took all their eyes off of Ukraine, and what did we do? Started looking at Israel. Did Putin call Netanyahu? Nope, not for 10 days. You know who he did call? Hamas. They came the next day and they held hands and said they were friends. We now know the Russian intelligence is what helped Hamas know how to get through that barrier. See the connection. If we supported Ukraine and supported Israel, that's only 5% of our defense budget. Of national security. America right now is acting like it's September 10th. We better remember what September 12th felt like. It only takes one to cause a tragedy. So if we take care of Ukraine, and we take care of Israel, and we secure our border, that's less than 20% of Biden's green subsidies. So don't let them tell you that you have to choose. What the president and Congress needs to choose is national security. Their job is to keep Americans safe. The only way you keep Americans safe is when you prevent war. They know if Iran wins, Russia wins. Russia, China, and Iran are bound together in an unholy alliance over the fact they hate freedom, they hate democracy, they hate the West, and above all things, they hate America. We can deal with this, but in order to deal with this, we have got to end this national self-loathing that has taken over our country. The idea that people say America's bad or rotten or racist. I was elected the first female minority governor in history. America's not racist, we're blessed. Our kids need to know to love America. They need to be saying the Pledge of Allegiance when they start school every day. If you look at the last general election polls, head-to-head with Biden, Trump is even. On a good day, he'll be up 2 points. Wall Street Journal, he was up by 4, margin of error. DeSantis doesn't beat Biden. In every one of those general election polls, every one, I beat Biden by double digits. In the Wall Street Journal, I beat him by 17 points. If you join with me on caucus day, I promise you, our best. Ron DeSantis, every single ad he's put on TV has been a lie. And don't take my word for it. He's been fact-checked from everyone from Newsmax to CNN. And the reason he keeps flipping commercials is every time he puts up the lie, we call him out on it, and he's got to take them back down. Donald Trump has started to attack me. A couple of days ago at a rally, he said, I don't know what this Nikki Haley surge is all about. Do you want me to tell you what it's about? It's a new poll that came out in New Hampshire. It's got Trump 44, Haley 30. We're surging. We're now second place in Iowa, second place in New Hampshire, second place in South Carolina. We just got one more fella to catch up to, and we're on our way. So Trump is putting up a false ad about me too in New Hampshire. If these guys are going to lie about me, I'm going to tell you the truth about them. Ron DeSantis drafted and led the charge to ban the renewable fuel standard that matters so much here in Iowa. He banned fracking. He banned offshore drilling. The Sierra Club loves it. Look it up. And then he has the nerve to come here a few days ago with the one Republican congressman that is the most anti-Israel congressman there, who voted with the squad against condemning anti-Semitism on college campuses, voted with the squad against condemning those college presidents. This guy voted against us pulling the $6 billion back from Iran for hostage payments. That's who he brings to campaign in Iowa? Then you've got Donald Trump, and his ad that's lying is the same ad that Ron used to have but took down because it was fact-checked, which says, I raised taxes in South Carolina. I raised the gas tax. I killed the gas tax every single time. Americans for Tax Reform already came out and said that was misleading, that I didn't do that. When the big companies in my state and the trucking association in my state pushed and pushed and pushed to raise the gas tax for infrastructure, and I said no and no and no, I finally went and said, y'all want the gas tax so bad? If you want it that much, then you have to lower the income tax by 5 times that amount. They didn't do it. But we've never raised the gas tax. Now, you know what President Trump needs to remember to tell you? Go back and look. In 2018, he proposed a 25-cent gas tax hike. 25 cents. And you know, you hear a lot about how good the economy was when he was there, and it was. But he put us $8 trillion more in debt to do it. Our kids are never going to forgive us for that. So these fellas need to understand, if you're going to lie to try and win, you don't deserve to win. And we're going to call them out on it every time. This is silly season. This is the time. But if you have any issues or questions, I want you to ask me anything you want to ask.
What is your exact stance on abortion?
Good question. You know, abortion is personal for every woman and man in America. And it should be treated that way because it is a personal, sensitive issue. I personally am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted. And we had trouble having both of our children, so I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice any more than I want you to judge me for being pro-life. But let's talk about how we got to this point. Then we'll know how to go forward. Prior to 1973, we had 46 state laws that dealt with abortion. And in 1973, unelected justices threw out those 46 state laws and said we were going to have abortion anytime, anywhere, for any reason. Now a wrong has been made right, and the unelected justices said we shouldn't have done that. This should be in the hands of the people. I agree with that. It should be as close to the people as possible. So now states are deciding. Some of the states are going more pro-life. I welcome that. Some states are going more pro-choice. I wish that wasn't the case, but the people decided, and I respect that. But the topic at hand that's the debate is there room for a federal law? And they are not telling the American people the truth on this. In order to have a federal law, you have to have a majority of the House, 60 Senate votes, and a signature of a president. We haven't had 60 Republicans in over 100 years. We might have 45 pro-life senators. So no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president can ban these state laws. So what can we do? Can't we find consensus? Can't we say let's ban late-term abortions? Can't we say let's encourage adoptions and good quality adoptions? Can't we say that no doctor or nurse that doesn't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform it? Can't we say that contraception should be accessible? And can't we say that no state law should say to a woman who's had an abortion that she's going to jail or getting the death penalty? Let's start there. Let's humanize this issue. Stop demonizing this issue. I have watched Democrats put fear in women on what's going to happen. And I've watched Republicans use judgment. There is no place for fear or judgment on something this personal. I had a roommate in college, Anna State deductions. You can't have that. So what I will tell you is we're going to get our economy back on track. We're going to start being a partner to you. It's going to hurt for a little bit, but at least you're going to be able to see the light. Because at least we're going to acknowledge there's a problem and make sure that our kids are not stuck having to fix it. And we need to start getting them used to the fact that they have got to get some things done. And that's going to be lots of Congress. Congress is a means to get that done. But we've got to start focusing on that. So that's what we'll do. Just try and make sure we get that board closed. And I'll tell you, send them back. You can't keep them. That may sound cold and cruel, but the reality is you've got a lot of people standing in line trying to do it the right way. You can't have them jump the line like that. And secondly, Biden just gave 500,000 Venezuelans temporary protective status. I saw what that did when I was at the UN. The first thing they do is call their family members and say, come on over. That's 500,000 social security numbers, 500,000 driver's licenses. You've got to deport so that they know that we are a country of laws. And if you give up being a country of laws, you give up everything this country was founded on. We've got to go back to that. Yes, ma'am.
So I have two questions, and you started to answer the first right now. We've got millions of people in this country that have come here illegally. It is easy to say we're going to deport them, but how are you going to find them if there's no record of them? That's first. And the second part is we have millions of people here illegally, and I think it's pretty naive to think that some of them are not terrorists waiting for the go button. So how do we prevent October 7th from happening all over this country when that go button is pushed?
We have to find them. There's ways to find them, and that's what the way you do it is every time we see one apply for a job. If you do the E-Verify, they can't hire people that are here illegally. If they get a traffic ticket, if they're not here legally, you deport them. If they go to try and get a driver's license or a picture ID, you deport them. We have to go and keep finding them one at a time, the way we can. But if they start to realize they're getting deported, they'll stop coming. But we've got to go and really make examples and show them that they're not going to stay. The second thing I think is, when you talk about, I'm sorry, the second part of your question was? They're terrorists. So our intelligence agencies just testified last week that we're in a bad situation. We all could have told them that. I know for a fact, Iran always said the easiest way to get to America was through the southern border. They're here. It could be happening. But we've got good law enforcement. God bless our law enforcement. We've got some here today giving them an If you want to talk about a couple of agencies we've got a gut, our intelligence agencies. Because they are supposed to be keeping Americans safe, not sitting there picking political fights between Republicans and Democrats. And that's what we're seeing happen right now. So getting them focused on how to find them, making sure our law enforcement is ready, making sure that the public has the truth. I will always tell you everything I know. I think a leader should always tell the people the truth and everything so that you know how to stay safe. But the truth is, the one thing that keeps me up at night is what happens between now and Election Day. Because we are the weakest we have ever been, and our enemies know it. Right way. You gotta do it the hard way. And it takes more time and it takes more effort, but guess what? It makes us better. I don't want to just be a president where I'm looking 4 and 8 years out. I want to make sure that we're looking 20 and 30 years out. So that the next president that comes in, it's not about swinging that pendulum anymore. It's about the fact that laws are on the books, and if they want to do something, we set the tone for them to know they've got to do it through Congress to get it done. It's important. That's what will take us back to our strength. It really is our strength when we go back to the fact that we're a democracy. And as hard as it is, that...
We've got plenty down
we've
here.
got plenty,
so.
Oh no, but this is super exciting. I don't want to. I'm gonna take that. This is a good one.
All right.
And can I do this one?
Yep.